Hello, everybody. It is October 16th, 2024. I was thinking about three things today. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about a time 5 years ago. One of my friends had excitedly approached me. They had just won a trip to the Bahamas for two. They were going to leave via cruise ship, and she came and told me because, A, I was her friend, and she was excited. And 3 months prior to that, I had gone to the Bahamas on a cruise ship. So she wanted to kind of see how my experience was. Although I was not familiar with the island that she was visiting, nor was I familiar with the cruise line that she was going on, I assured her she would have the time of her life. I assured her that her cruise experience would be fantastic. I said it was like a mini world floating in the middle of the ocean. Everything you could ever want is right within the ship. You'll have a fantastic time. I told her that the Bahamas were a thing of beauty. The weather was always nice and sunny. The water was crystal clear, and she is in for a good time. She was satisfied with that particular answer, and she was very, very happy to be going on this particular trip. Anyway, a few weeks kind of rolled by, and she gives me a call, and she says that her boyfriend had broken up with her, and he is no longer going on this trip with her, and she asked if I wanted to go with her. I'd known her for a number of years, and our relationship was a plutonic one, but a very good one. And I certainly jumped at the chance to go back to the Bahamas again. I had a great time. Why not do that again? At this particular time, I was a madman. I was going to happy hour essentially every single night, drinking till I was blackout drunk, smoking about 2 packs of cigarettes. I was out of control. I recently got a promotion in my job, and I thought I was the man. I thought I was going places, and I couldn't be more wrong. Anyway, we get down to the docking area where the boat was going to be at and where we were going to head off on our particular vacation. And she had noted that the boat did not look very welcoming. As a matter of fact, it looked like a cargo ship that they refurbished and tried to turn into a cruise ship. Kind of looked like a jail from the outside. Anyway, we went in, and the interior was nice enough, but we noted that they had this weird ticket system where you had to buy a bunch of tickets, and anytime you wanted anything, you couldn't just pay for it. You had to go back to this ticket area, buy some more tickets, and get whatever you wanted. Typically, this was drinks at the bar, but it was a little frustrating to go back and forth when you didn't really expect it. I didn't really like the system. Neither did she. It was kind of confusing. It was kind of messy. We have some of their specialty drinks that they offered on the particular boat, and they were horrible. I mean, just pure sugar, just diabetes everywhere. They didn't taste good. Very low-end alcohol, like the worst rail drinks you could ever imagine. We set sail. It's going to be a short cruise because we're heading out from Florida, and we're going to this island. Going to stay there for a couple days and come right back. Anyway, we went on the upper deck, and the upper deck just wasn't the cleanest. The crowd was very rough. The music was rough. Everything about it was just not very nice. We looked at the pools on the upper deck, and they had looked like a bunch of people had peed right in there, and no one ever really cleaned it up. I mean, they looked nasty. They looked just like some kind of stagnant swamp or something along those lines. Anyway, I was with her. We had good conversation. We had a number of drinks, and we were having a good time. We were making do. We were doing the best that we could, and I received notification at that time. I received two notifications. One was from my ex-girlfriend. She had dumped me, and I didn't really realize how upset this would make me. I didn't even think of her since our breakup, but this particular time I had saw that a guy had brought her flowers, and she had mentioned that she was in this new wonderful relationship, and it hit me like a blow to the chest. I don't know why it hurt so tremendously. Everything suddenly felt uneasy. I almost felt dizzy at the time. I think I kind of realized through my foggy, hazy head that I threw away something really, really good, a smart, beautiful girl that I was in love with, and I was suddenly heartbroken. It was the weight of the world on me. And before I could really react or talk to anyone about this, I received a text message from my mom. She had informed me that my dad really wasn't looking too good. And when I returned, she wants me to visit a little bit more often. This was ominous. This was weird. She had known I was going on vacation. And my mom's a nurse, and she never, ever, ever reveals anything. She doesn't like worrying people at all. So I knew it was something serious. I felt it in the pit of my stomach. I just felt very nauseous. I wasn't happy. I was near tears. I texted my friend and I told him I was on vacation. I said, I really, really, really need to speak with you when I get back. I feel very uneasy. I feel bad, man. I feel bad mentally. And he was like, absolutely, you can come over whenever you want. But I felt bad for my friend too, because we were going on this vacation that was so far not living up to her expectations. And all of a sudden, I wasn't this party animal anymore. I was just very quiet. I was very mopey, and I was on the verge of breaking down and crying, but I didn't want to do that in front of her. Anyway, we get to our particular location and we find out we are going to be in this dusty old motel. My friend was livid, not only because she didn't have a good cruise experience, but also because I was just not good company to keep. And then in addition to that, she had a pamphlet which showed this resort that we thought we were staying at. It was a small resort. And she brought it to the attention of the manager and she was like, you guys scammed me. What is this? I thought we were staying here. And they showed us the fine print, and the fine print definitely said, we're not staying at that resort. We do have access to their outdoor pools during the day, which is not what we expected. The pools weren't really much of anything anyway. They were kind of designed cool, but they were small. They weren't really that much fun. And there was just one little restaurant attached to it, which was nothing to write home about. So she was disappointed about that too. We went into our motel room and we saw bugs and we saw this and we saw that, and we really didn't have an itinerary, and there didn't seem to be anything to do that we could walk to. So, we did get to speak to someone that gave us a tour of the island, which was decent enough, but I was miserable. I was sad. And on the way back, we experienced a bad trip, and my friend and and our relationship, although we still do have an acquaintance with each other, it was never as close as it was. She was crying on the way back because this was the worst vacation she had ever went on, and I didn't help that at all. And I feel bad about it, but I really didn't enjoy the vacation either. Anyway, I get to my friend's house. I drive there and I just feel a lot of anxiety, and I try to explain to him what's going on. And all of a sudden I take a deep breath in, and I let go, and I cry and I cry. I heave like a baby. As a matter of fact, I can't get any words out. I'm so short of breath. I can't believe my woman had left me for someone else. During the course of this time, anytime I would get drunk enough, I would send her a drunken message expressing how much she meant to me and that I need her back. This was unrequited, unwarranted, and unwanted, unfortunately. I think I sent her a total of 4 messages, so nothing like over the top. I didn't say anything ugly whatsoever, but I was ignored, and that didn't feel good at all because I was so close to this person. I was in love with them, and to just kind of see them ignoring me was something I never ever expected. As a matter of fact, if I probably didn't approach her in such a way, I'm sure that we would have somewhat of a relationship today. Not a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, but acquaintances, because we never really had any knockdown, drag-out arguments or anything along those lines. But I was sad, man. I was sad. I remember when I was about to leave, I told my friend about my dad as well. And he mentioned, he was like, man, why don't you just stay here? You're not really happy. I can see that you're going through a tough time right now. You're not happy at your job either. You can just come back, come live here with me for a little while, quit your corporate job. You could wait tables at the restaurant I work at. We don't really have much overhead. His house was completely paid off, and he was like, you could just kind of work for your money. We'll do something fun. Maybe we'll go to Vegas one day or something along those lines. And I thought about it for a moment, but in my mind, being that I was so ill, it was something I couldn't put away. I just got promoted at my job after all. I had to prove now to everyone on social media that I was indeed the man, which is a pathetic thing to do. And I never did that prior to that, and I never did that since that. I never felt the need to do that. And I've always kind of been disgusted by people who try to flex. And I really just had a slightly better than average job. It wasn't anything special, but I needed to look like the man because in my drugged up, drunken brain, I thought for sure if she saw me, she would be very, very impressed with me, and she would want to come back to me and I'm sure I would hear from my mom that my dad was A-OK. He just needed to go to the doctor and get a pill. And another thing that's always going to bother me is I really didn't visit my parents during this time. They're about a 4-hour drive away. But I didn't because I was so upset. I was so out of my mind. And looking back, knowing that my dad was very, very, very sick and was soon to pass away, ripped me in half. I feel continuous guilt and regret about that whole situation. I found out a few months later that my dad had cancer. My parents actually came to visit me and told me that. I was also told that it was a terminal cancer. However, there was light at the end of this particular tunnel. I was told that his cancer is very, very slow growing, and the doctor was confident if they treated it appropriately, he could go on for a number of years and be A-OK. He talked about one of his patients who had the same cancer, and he stated this patient just went on vacation, actually. They work a full-time job. They go to the gym, they lift weights, so on, etc. And he mentioned that to my dad, that, potentially you could be a lot like this particular patient. So even though it was terminal, it's not necessarily a death sentence, if that makes sense at all. It doesn't really. Anyway, my dad got treatment and he was responding remarkably well to chemotherapy. Granted, he got sick, but it was really halting and shrinking that cancer. So we were all very happy to hear this, and it was somewhat of a relief, even though I was still so depressed at this time in my life. My dad developed sepsis, which is like a blood infection. I don't think anyone's watching this video, but it is a blood infection. It is something that a lot of people go through when their immune system is down or something along those lines, but typically they recover, and they expected my dad to recover as well. However, we found out he had cirrhosis of the liver, which we didn't know about. You see, my dad was a heavy drinker. He was an alcoholic, much like his son, much like I am. However, when he would drink, things would be completely different. When I would drink, I would get really excited and sometimes very aggressive. And at this point in my life, I would just get very depressed. But I kept on drinking and drinking and drinking. I drank more than I remember my dad ever drinking. I drank more frequently than I remember him drinking. The thing that was difficult with my dad was that he would drink hard liquor when he got home from work. But instead of getting emotional or anything like that, he would just become increasingly nicer and sweeter, to the point that it was obnoxious. He would talk of his sons, me being one of them, and he would just mention how proud he was of us and how happy he was at his job and how happy he was to have a wife and how happy he was to be a part of this world and this family. I never really have ever seen anyone express such continuous gratitude. I really wish I could be like my dad, and although sometimes he would frustrate me because he was always slow to respond to things and he wasn't really good at making hard decisions, I wish I had his mindset. I don't think I've ever met anyone with his mindset. Maybe one of my friends was very similar to him, but he was just pure sweetness. He passed away on Christmas Eve, and obviously I was devastated. I was also just devastated because I was extremely depressed about my girlfriend leaving me. And my girlfriend had done a trip to Vegas with her new boyfriend during Christmas as well, which was heartbreaking. I was wailing, I was crying. I mean, I was just so loud. I can't believe I wailed that loud. It was like an animal, like a wolf, just kind of crying. I didn't understand where these vocalizations were coming from. It was just a deep hurt in every way imaginable. I couldn't believe this was my reality. And 6 or 7 months prior to this, I was sitting pretty and I just kind of ruined everything. And granted, some bad things happened that were out of control. A lot of this was within my control as well. But I was spiraling out of control and things were not turning well for me at all. On top of this, the job I did have, the manager I had was a newer manager. And she wasn't very understanding. I mean, she tried to be, but it was almost like she didn't really grasp the emotional weight of death. I remember she spoke to me briefly that her mom had died rather young too. I think she had like a liver cancer or something as well. I mean, my dad didn't have liver cancer, but I think her mom did, and she was talking to me about how she passed away and how that was hard, so on, etc. But I didn't really, it really didn't seem like my workplace was, they weren't, they weren't actually. They weren't at all. They weren't. They didn't help me out when my dad was passing away. Things were still very difficult on me, like workload wise. And I don't mean this in general. I mean this like toward the last week, toward his death, and the couple weeks after his death. I know now, as I climbed up that corporate ladder, that if you have a coworker that has a family member, especially if they are a immediate family member, that is going through the dying process or has died, you drop absolutely everything for this coworker, and your other coworkers better man up or woman up and pick up the slack, because they know that one of their coworkers, one of their amigos, is going to be down and out for quite some time. And you do that, and when they come back strong. They come back appreciating you, and you appreciate them, because you know that one day you're going to go through the same exact thing. But she didn't really see that, and I don't feel like some of my coworkers did either. It was a pretty toxic work environment, and this made me angry. I mean, just so angry. I would often fantasize about a few people starting, saying something that would set me off, just to give me an excuse to choke them out or punch them in the face as hard as I could. These were a couple people that I were working with in this very, very, very toxic environment. And I was miserable, and I stayed miserable, and I actually got quite a bit worse. I lost a lot of weight. I was exercising a lot during this time. It was very, very odd, because I would go exercise and then I would go drink. And then it occurred to me that the vast majority of my calories were coming from alcohol. Even though I looked fantastic on the outside, I was miserable on the inside. I was also doing a lot of testosterone, which kept my muscle mass up during this time, and probably kept me very, very, very aggressive as well, while being a complete and utter drunk and drug addict. I became very vulnerable during this time, and oddly enough, I had for the first time in my life, I would see a lot of women. I don't know if it was a matter of being vulnerable in front of them and kind of showing my emotion and just being real, or just kind of letting go of a lot of the fear that was once close to my heart about approaching people in general. This wasn't really healthy either, because I would see them, but I would just want to go back to my ex-girlfriend. It was a little obsessive at this point, especially since my ex-girlfriend was not coming back to me, even though I would like to pretend in my mind that she would any day now. Things went bad. Things went bad to worse, and of course, at the end of the day, things ended horribly for me. Absolutely horrible. Maybe one video I'll go into exactly what happened, but I didn't get a happy ending, put it that way. Things just went from dark to darker until eventually things kind of lightened up again. But as stated, I'm in a difficult spot right now. So we'll see how things go. I just can't have them happen like they did last time. When I speak to my mom now, I'm always concerned that something bad is going to happen to her as well, because prior to this, something bad happened to my other parent. Anyway, the man with the glasses bids you adieu. Here's to a better day for you and me. Have a good one. Bye-bye.